Hey people, welcome to the channel, and in this case, putting together a basic survival kit, something that you probably have most of the items around. It's just a matter of organizing it. It's not about putting together a tactical bug out bag, just getting together the supplies you need during an emergency, organizing them maybe in a box, or even better, big duffel bag like this in case you have to evacuate or whatnot. You put it in a vehicle and you go. Remember, far more important than any item is the knowledge that you have. For that, you will have my book over there, Surviving the Economic Collapse, as well as Street Survival Skills. Links for those there below. And if you enjoy the video, by the end of it, you will have the option of subscribing yet again there in one of the corners. Let's get started with the basic stuff. What is the essential thing you should always have? Water. You can really not have enough of this stuff, and a lot of times people just overlook it or just don't have enough. Giving as cheap as it is, not only 1 or 2 bottles should go into one of your bags, into this kit that you're putting together. You probably should have a number of cases stored somewhere in case of an emergency, not only for drinking, for washing, cleaning up, and a bunch of other things. You just take for granted that you turn the faucet and you have water magically there. That is not normal in the natural world, especially not when you have emergencies. Let's move on to food. Now here's where the classic staples, canned, food, shelf stable food. This is one of the classics, and it works. It's this kind of thing that you can eat right away without even cooking if needed. I mean, heating it is going to be making it quite a bit better, but canned food, yes. Also, dry pasta. This is a favorite of mine. We eat this in my house anyway, so having a good amount of that in store makes sense. The other thing you may want to consider is some actual emergency rations, like boat rations. These are good even for babies, given that it makes a paste, just combining it with water. You can heat it up or just eat it right away, and it lasts for 20 years. I keep mostly these for kits in vehicles and whatnot. These things are great for that. If not, just more commonly available food is probably preferred by people in the household. Moving on, first aid kit, the basics, and of course, I suggest getting the knowledge. Maybe head to the closest Red Cross. Sometimes they offer free training or maybe a donation of some kind, but always a good idea to know how to use those things. Next one, flashlights. I believe that headlamps are your best option. These are Petzl. These are very, very good. Sometimes you find these on sale in Amazon for very cheap, for very little money. These are the ones I would get. Petzl Tacticas or whatever is on sale at that moment. These use AAA batteries, and they're very good products. They last quite a bit. Pretty rugged too. Talking still about flashlights, I would add some of these budget flashlights like these ones. This pack is like 8 flashlights for, I think I paid like $2 each. Maybe even less than that. I did a video about it, so don't quote me on this. Maybe go check on that video. But these were super affordable, 8 flashlights, and you can give these to kids or neighbors or people that you don't want to give a nicer Petzl, more expensive flashlight, and it still works. These are quality enough. So yeah, as a flashlight, it does work, and you have a bunch of them, which is great in an emergency. Next one, multi-tools, knives, and yeah, pocket knives. Victorinox, a classic. The Soldier is usually quite affordable when you find it in Amazon on sale, and it's a solid knife. I mean, it's a little bit bigger than your typical red Swiss Army knife. It locks into place, so it's as the name implies, it's a soldier knife. These are used by the Swiss Army as well as the German Army, I believe, and I think the US has a black version of this one. Multi-tools, I favor multi-tools even more so, and you have some budget ones. These are from Leatherman. These are the more budget friendly. I think this is the Sidekick, I believe. So yeah, there is Sidekick. These are fine. Now that the patent has expired, there's copies made by other Chinese manufacturers that are very good quality as well, and I have tested a few of them, and there's nothing wrong with them. Still in the same line, a survival knife. You could go with a larger, smaller one. Since this is a bag, you might as well go with a big knife. It could be something like this. SC makes the Junglas, which is very similar. It could be a short Tramontina machete. Those are also very good. This is a little bit of a fancier one, even though the sheath may not indicate that. Bussy Bushwhacker Battle Mistress. Yeah, that's this thing, and it's pretty solid. It's a nice, sturdy, big blade, but not as heavy as the crazy like 1/4-inch one. So yeah, one of the more functional big blades that they've done. Going on, water filter, again, bunch of different manufacturers. These were sent for reviewing at some point, and they're okay. Check in Amazon if they have good reviews, some of the better known names. But yes, water filter, I insist on the importance of having a lot more water, something that would not even fit here. Several cases of water is cheap enough and is super valuable and important during actual real emergencies. Fire starting stuff, and here you can go with matches. Actually, you should go with matches and proper lighter, a couple of these big lighters. Quickest way of having an actual flame, and fire seals in case of long-term emergencies and starting fire ability. Rolls of tape, and I'm gonna call it here duct tape and some of this transparent, boxing tape and paper tape as well, but a good amount of tape. Put it in there, it's gonna be tremendously useful. One of the things you don't hear a whole lot of is rolls of this plastic stuff. This is wrapping. This is plastic wrapping for shipping stuff and whatnot. A lot of meters in this thing, and these can allow you to fix windows, improvise if there's broken, even chunks of walls that fall apart because of some earthquake, some disaster, something happened, and you need to improvise even a shelter. I mean, there's videos of people using these to make a pretty interesting dome for a lot of people. So if you need to make some improvised shelter or patch up your actual home, this is great stuff to have. Cannot recommend one of these enough. See if you find it being sold somewhere where they sell boxing and moving supplies and that sort of stuff. Mask. Not a surgical mask unless you're a dentist or a surgeon. Get a proper respirator, something like this, or even better. This is affordable, cheap enough as it is. It's a particle filter P3. I would like the maybe a 3M full face mask with filters that work not only for particles but for fogs and sprays and that sort of stuff. Even better, an actual military grade 40 millimeter NATO filter mask. Those would be the ones I would recommend, but these are cheap. You can find them in hardware stores, and as long as it's a mask that properly fits, it's gonna be far better than just covering your face with a piece of cloth, like I've unfortunately seen so many people during disasters. Radio, and I'm talking about these. It could be a UE5R, Baofeng, or some of the cheaper, some of these family, FRS, or some of the family radios. These are half a watt fixed antenna, the kind. They are cheap. Motorola makes good ones, and they have a surprisingly good range and also work with the same battery. So in there it goes. Also, one of these things that has like a crank and a solar panel. Now, I have a bunch of these. Some of these I bought because I like this sort of gadget. I've had some of these sent for reviewing. My advice is don't count on this. Don't count on the crank thing. Make sure it has a compartment for actual batteries. Again, these use AAA. AAA batteries are the ones I'm standardizing, and since I'm talking about those, let's not forget a bunch of AAA batteries. Get quality ones. Don't buy crap. You don't want to have those leaking and not working in the worst possible moment. But a radio, crucial, so as to know what's going on. Documents, copies of your documents, copies of everything, even a little bit of cash, USB with some critical files that you may want to make sure you never lose, and put all of this in a waterproof container of some sorts. That's going to go right in there. Moving on. We talked about cash. It could also be the case that you want to make sure you have not only cash but precious metals, some junk silver, which is really not junk, just the way it's called, some silver coins, some eagles, gold, depending on, and the amount of each one, that's going to be entirely up to you. I believe in precious metals. I think they have a place now even more than ever, given the price it's going through. And by the way, if you're interested in saving for your retirement in actual physical gold, remember there's the link there of Augusta Precious Metals. That's Gold IRA. That's the best rated gold IRA company. And yeah, the link is going to be there, taking you to my landing page, which is, yeah, it's something you may want to check out if you want to make sure you have gold in your retirement plan. Clothing, extra clothing, I think that's also something you may want to add. At least underwear, I would put it in there. In plastic tarps, I think that film is even better than plastic tarps. A couple more things. Instead of You could go with ponchos, but these Mylar bags, the space blankets, these work great. And some of these are actually already shaped as emergency bags. So instead of covering yourself with a space blanket, you just go inside the bag. And these ones happen to be orange, which is of course very visible. If not, it's going to be something like this, which is fine. But orange is cool. And yeah, maybe having a bag already formed is nicer. You can buy like these, 5, 10 of these in Amazon for very little money. Remember that in terms of cooking, if you have a stove and whatnot, you will need the fuel. So make sure you have several. If you have any camping stove, make sure you actually have that stuff. For working and getting stuff out of the way, a pry bar, tools, shovels, all of those things, maybe it goes beyond what would fit here, but make sure you have gloves and you have eye protection. Those will be very important. Last thing, we already have a decent bag, and this is really not all that different from what you would typically see in the Red Cross or different government agencies talking about civil defense. One of the things you will never see in any of those is having one of these things, right? And this is, of course, a pump action Mossberg shotgun. Why? Because I've been in different countries. I know how difficult or easy it is to find different sorts of weapons. And in my experience, the easiest gun to find pretty much everywhere, even when highly restrictive, is a shotgun. These things you can find even in UK. You can buy yourself a shotgun and a bunch of shells. And this is going to give you something to defend yourself in case it's needed, in case one of those happy fellas that drop by your country decide that they also want to take your home and your life and what else. So this is probably an option even in some of the most restrictive countries in the world. I would suggest getting one. Not the kind of thing you hear mentioned often, but because I know what I know, and I know that if anything like this is necessary. Look, I have a video that I have to upload about a dog barking away home invaders in Australia. 4 guys were breaking into a home in Australia. Do you think those 4 guys breaking in, having you tied up, they're going to have themselves a party? You don't want that. You don't want to rely on a dog barking to save your family's life. Last resort, it's going to be you. Maybe, depending on where you are, you'll have to make the necessary explanations, but you will be alive. I always prefer that over the alternative. Folks, if you enjoy the content, if you like the channel, what you just heard, you have the button for subscribing to the channel over here. The books for learning even more are going to be over there. Take care. Have a great one.